Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. We've got a lot to get to on our show tonight, including coming up, we have Stacey Abrams I'm going to be talking to. First, though, lots of people, including me, have noted that as the White House urges states to open, in violation of its own CDC guidelines, that there is still no plan to stop, suppress, or at the very least minimize the spread of the coronavirus. And that is mostly true, okay? There's mostly no plan, but it's not completely true. I was thinking about this today. There actually is a plan. It just doesn't involve you or me. We see the plan on full display in the president's own daily schedule, where you might notice he's been carrying out what looks like his fairly normal routine. He does his briefings in the briefing room of the Rose Garden, though he's stopped doing those as much. But he meets people in the Oval Office. He's flown across the country. He visited a mask factory in Arizona where he did not wear a mask, and they played Live and Let Die in the background. It's a rough, if adjusted version of normalcy for President Donald Trump and also Vice President Mike Pence. They both appear to be carrying on with roughly their normal lives and, crucially, duties, more or less. And the reason they can do all this is because they're being tested all the time. The New York Times reports President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence are tested frequently. Aides who come into close contact with them are tested weekly. And the list of people who need to be tested daily keeps expanding. When Mike Pence was asked why he did not wear the required mask to visit the Mayo Clinic last week, his response was that he's tested for the coronavirus on a regular basis, and everyone who's around me is tested for the coronavirus. Would you look at that? The Trump administration has figured out a way. They've solved the problem. How to bring normalcy to the daily lives of President Trump and Vice President Pence in the midst of this virus. They try to prevent them from getting sick by implementing an incredibly robust testing regime to constantly make sure that things are safe. So the Trump administration actually does have a plan. They're implementing in front of us. They're just applying it for two people. If they implemented this across the country, as other countries have, we would all feel much more comfortable about going back to work or school, movie, theaters maybe, restaurants. I mean, if they were testing robustly and tracing contacts, that's also something they're doing in the White House, then everyone could have some confidence that we're safe, some rough semblance of normal. And it would not be the same as before, clearly, and you'll see it's not the same as before for the president, who can't go to his big rallies he loves. But if everyone is being tested all the time and everyone's contacts are being traced, then we would know immediately if someone contracted the virus, and then they could go into isolation. But of course, that is not the case. That's not what's happening. No, the White House is taking a kind of selfish approach. And increasingly, actually, it's not just the White House and Trump. The Republican Party or conservative line on this, the approach to all this, is increasingly becoming this. We will protect ourselves and our interests while you guys, you working folks, you get out there and you weather the virus. Here's a snapshot that kind of sums that up, pointed out to me by Matt Iglesias yesterday on Twitter, of the Wisconsin State Supreme Court. That's them hearing arguments yesterday challenging the stay-at-home orders of the Democratic governor in that state. And as you can see in that screenshot, they're all remote. They're all responsibly practicing physical distancing. They're not lined up in a meatpacking plant. But the Republican justices of that Supreme Court, who make up a majority of the court, actually question the legality of the state stay-at-home orders, as they themselves work remotely and safely. In fact, one justice referred to the state stay-at-home order as, quote, the very definition of tyranny. And the conservative Chief Justice even blamed an outbreak in one county on people working in a meatpacking plant.
The cases in Brown County in the span of 2 weeks surged over tenfold, from 60 to almost 800. And that's 2 weeks that would be required for emergency rulemaking. So,
these were due to the meatpacking, though. That's where the Brown County got the flare. It wasn't just the regular folks in Brown County.
Did you hear what she said? Oh, no. All the coronavirus cases, those were just the meat packers, not the regular folks. So why workers of the meatpacking plant are not regular folks to her? No, they're just the meat packers. That's what they have to go pack meat and get sick. That's not the regular folks. That's not you or me sitting here on this Zoom hearing safely. Republican officials, many of them are acting responsibly. We should be very clear here. But many of them are now approaching the virus like the screenshot in that remote hearing. And they'll tell you that instead of being locked down, you need to go back to work. But again, we know what it will look like out in the world because we've seen it in places that stay open. 2 businesses in Utah told their staffs, ignore coronavirus guidelines, and they required their workers who had tested positive to report to work, and you will never guess what happened. 68 people across those 2 businesses tested positive, leading one to temporarily shut down. If you just keep going about business as usual with the virus out there, and you do not come up with some really sophisticated and fairly dramatic new regimes of testing and tracing and physical distancing procedures, people are going to get sick. It's that simple. And that is the reason why Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said the hill he will die on in the next rescue bill is liability protection for employers, to make sure that if you get sick after you go back to work, you can't sue the boss. So when you go back to work, Mitch McConnell has a plan for your boss, but not for you. Just yesterday, the New York Times reported the task force run by the president's son-in-law prioritized tips from political allies and associates of President Trump tracked on a spreadsheet called VIP Update. How perverse is that in the midst of a pandemic? VIP Update. The President of the United States, the White House, making sure that all the connected people got personal protective equipment for the hospitals that they were close to. Like they're running a Mar-a-Lago golf tournament. In one case, Jeanine Pirro, the Trump stalwart and Fox host, repeatedly contacted task force members and FEMA officials until 100,000 masks were sent to a hospital she favored. I should tell you we're going to have more on that later on the show. Today, the new White House press secretary was asked by NBC's Peter Alexander why everyone is not getting tested like the president.
Why shouldn't all Americans who go back to work be able to get a test before they do to feel comfortable in their own work environment to be interacting with other individuals?
Yeah, well, let's dismiss a myth about tests right now. If we tested every single American in this country at this moment, we'd have to retest them an hour later and then an hour later after that, because at any moment you could theoretically contract this virus. So the notion that everyone needs to be tested is just simply nonsensical.
Simply nonsensical. Well, apply that to the White House. The plan coming into focus from the president and his allies is that we will protect ourselves and we'll protect our interests. And you guys out there, you Americans, you are, and this is the president's words, you're warriors. You are cannon fodder that will be thrown against the onslaught of the virus. They're going out of their way to protect themselves, and they're going to send you out to make sure you cannot sue your employer when you get sick.